Okay, let's have a look at how the charts have developed over the past 5 days. Timing will be in the description box below, as always. Starting with the dollar, um, good and bad news. The good news is that the bearish view on this worked out. The bad news is that it's looking more and more likely that a major peak is in the DX here. The multi-cycle peak from 2008 through to January this year, it does look complete, and there is significant bearish divergence. So if this does correct over the next few months and presents another selling opportunity, it's going to be probably an enormous move down. I can go over the count now, but right now it's looking like a major high is in place. It's similar to last weekend's count. I'm a little bit unclear about this last segment. I can see it as two ways, really. It's basically the same as last week. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5, possibly. It's probably not perfect count because this is a very small move for wave 4, but then looking at the move up, looking at the move up in the dollar into New Year, we also had a little 4 and 5 here, a little gyration here, which was small and rather sneaky, and that did work out well for finding a peak ultimately. I did not catch on to that quickly at the time. It became clearer a little bit later, but in any case, that snuck in there. And it's possible there's something like that here. So maybe on the next low, it's looking like it needs another low still, as this segment right here is looking only like 3 so far. So a little gyration, one more down probably, and see if it can find a low into a divergence level, possibly. Often the divergence gets negated, but let's see what happens here. Another way to view it, maybe 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, and then a 4 and 5 still to come, and then the bigger correction. So it seems to be quite close to correcting. Last week's rather, three-wave move up was sold into. So any correction in this pair is still being sold. And I don't have a kind of horizontal support level on here. Just a moment. I mean, you can see all the wicks and the price action here. So it is coming into a support level. On the monthly, it does look only like 3 down here. So maybe a slight move up and then another move down. But in any case, it's looking like it's very weak and like a top is in. So a lot of other pairs look like major tops or major positions had been put in, such as euro dollar. This definitely looks like a major low is in. I'm not running a bearish count on this. Any correction, pardon me, any move down from here will probably be a correction. I'm looking at this as a supply area here to find some resistance and to see a correction. The count is very similar on here. It could be the end of wave 3, or maybe I could force it into wave 5, but in any case, I'm looking for a correction into this zone, 114, 115. That hasn't changed. So there's not much more to say about this, frankly, except it's coming into that area. It's essentially a flip inverted of the DX. So the same pattern and rules apply. The dips are being bought, and however, it is reaching that area. So I mean, for example, if it is a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we see a correction here for one more up, and then a little bit, or a correction following that, perhaps. Pardon me, that was not correct. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, and then maybe larger wave 4 for one more high, and then a correction. So I should really label this. That will remove the need to do this every single time. But in any case, the supply zone here is pretty clear with these horizontal levels that a lot of traders look for. So I am expecting some resistance to come into 114, 115, maybe 116. On the shorter time frames, on the lower time frames, there's not much to say here. Seems it still has a bit more of an up move to go. Let's move on to cable. I got a bit more of a grasp on this week. Now I'm looking at this two ways essentially. I haven't marked as wave 4, but frankly I am doubting that. What it does imply is that on the next high, we could see it open to a reversal and then a move down to follow that. That is one scenario. We're going to come into a divergent situation here between the price and stocks. Now looking at the whole count, what I would say about this, I have it as 1, 2, wave 3 into late last year, October last year, and I'm viewing this as larger wave 4. However, I want to present the idea, I think I did it in last night's video, that it is possible to count this as a truncation. So if that is a truncation, that would be the low for wave 5 and the entire decline would be over, suggesting that this here, rather than being a C wave ending diagonal, would be a wave 1 leading diagonal. I feel that does fit here. So the correction will give us some information. When it does find that top and it corrects down, that will give us information about what is to follow. So again, like Euro US dollar, it appears that a resistance point is coming into this. I mean, price often does retrace back to wave 4 of one lesser degree, so into 132 possibly, 131. It looks like it has enough strength to continue up here without much change. I mean, if that is the end of wave 3 of this segment here, we may see a bit of sideways movement and another high, and it will expose itself on the next high to a possible reversal. So two scenarios here, judging that Euro US dollar is looking like it's put in a major low, I would prefer to think of this as possibly a truncation. Truncations do sometimes follow from very hard moves down, so I would keep that in mind. Okay, Australian US dollar is finding some resistance here from a little wedge. Now I'm switching to a bullish view here. I'm not taking this as some kind of corrective wave of this. I mean, this box segment here is obviously corrective. If you want to make a bearish case now, which I used to when it was down here, it is possible to see this as a corrective wave, and then we still have that one more down move. However, I'm really not favoring that now, judging by the shape of this and the height of it, the way it's come up so high. I would have to view this as a leading move for another move up for a breakout. Also considering that on the monthly chart, the stochastics are still pointing up. I used to go over this quite a lot on US Canadian. So we have to take it as bullish here for a move towards 80, which it will usually make. And looking at this month candle, let's see a correction, judge it by the price action, and then if it works out correctively in a series of threes, to find a long into this. Now, how to interpret the entire pattern then from 2016, I would have to take this as 1 or A, and I would have to take this, what I was considering an impulse before, as the first move down of what's possibly a bullish B wave triangle. For example, A, B, C, D, E into here, and now the first part of a move up, correction, and another move up above the April 2016 high. There is another way to view this, of course, as this being slightly truncated here. But in any case, it's looking like this has the legs now. However, I would expect a correction to come in to this either on the next high or from here. So judging the correction as it comes in, but then to find a bullish move after that. I think really the bear view here is probably dead. Just as in New Zealand US dollar, the bear view on this died way back here. I was trying to run it as a steeper move, but obviously that did not work out. It's holding, on the daily, it's holding trend support still. I'm looking for this to essentially turn over as it's in a resistance zone up here. So I'm looking for this to turn over, and then again to find, if it does, there should be a selling opportunity here, and then to find a three-wave correction to follow from there for another move up. I mean, I'm not inclined to view this as WXYX and again like that. Of course, I cannot rule it out, but I think that the odds do not favor that. Looking at the monthly, it's been very strong, the weekly too, and judging by the weakness of the dollar, see if we can find a correction and then another move up. That would probably tie in well with the DX finding a wave 4 and wave 5, perhaps, if it hasn't finished or near finishing already. But in any case, I have to view this bullishly now after what's gone on the past few weeks. Okay, let's jump to a market I haven't dealt with for a while, as I had a hard time on Euro Australian dollar getting this swing here. The whole count here has been difficult. It is possible to view this. I put a count into this now, which I feel is valid. It is possible to view this as wave 4, but I'm going to, like with Euro New Zealand, I'm going to hold it as being in a larger corrective process now, and that it is essentially done a 5-wave impulse here. What I wanted to say about this, it's only moved up so far in 3 waves, but on the 4-hour, this is corrective in here, and if you look on the 1-hour, it's looking like it's presenting a bullish wedge for a buying opportunity. So that will be something to watch for on Monday morning. A chance to buy this if it works out for another move up above 1.5. And then perhaps if that does stall out, to see it come back down. The monthly is closing, showing some weakness. So if we see a move back up to 150, 151, I would suggest at the close and open prices here of the previous months, it tends to find resistance at those levels. So what into 151 next week? If we can find a bullish move out of this wedge, it's essentially a wedge similar to what we saw on US Japanese yen here. It's a kind of wedge like that, looking for a move up, though it's only on the 1-hour, 4-hour time frames. But I would look for this as something to move up to 150. You can never be sure about these things because there is always the possibility of something like this. But for now, I'm viewing this bullishly and to look for another move up overall on the break of this wedge. Okay, Euro New Zealand worked out amazingly well, but the chance of buying this without a stop order was without an order was almost impossible, as it came and filled the gap exactly to the point, essentially, and reversed immediately. And by the time the 1-hour candle closed, it was already up 100 and something points from that close. A lot of pent up energy from this decline. So I am looking at this to come into a resistance area, most likely I would say a bit higher for a few more swings up, resistance possibly into 158, 159, and then another move down for a B and a C leg here. I am viewing this as 5 waves in total, So a three-wave decline would be what I'm looking for. So this ties in Euro, Australian dollar, and Euro New Zealand are kind of linked together. Well, they've been swinging together lately. So I would expect that to follow and expect to see both correct a little more after another move up. See the weekly stocks reset back down. So I'm looking for this to move higher for the time being. I still think there's a good chance of that too. Looking at it locally on the 1 hour, probably there's a, if we take that as an impulsive wave, probably there's another swing down in this and then the move up. Okay, Aussie New Zealand bounced very well from the trend line support on the weekly. However, to me, it's looking corrective from the low. I think this is a corrective move from the low. I would expect another swing up, most likely. If we assume this pattern is correct, I mean, this was certainly correct here. I think 5 down from here, and this was a little wedge or a corrective move down. But in any case, just to focus on the bigger details, as I mentioned already, I am looking at this to break this, find one more low here beneath Y, but holding above this low, and then starting a major move up towards 114. This impulse here is the major low, pardon me, the major move, which I feel is a major low. And I'm looking at this essentially as a three-wave move like this. WXY or WXYZ, and then a move up. So judging by the price action on the lower time frames, I am looking at this as corrective. So whether it moves up a bit higher or stalls out and fails, I am looking for it to move down eventually and to break that. The monthly close today is looking weak. Nothing here to suggest it's reversing to move up. So I think we're dealing with a corrective move and then an ultimate break of the low here. I mean, this three-wave move overall was rather disappointing ultimately. I thought there was a major low in here, but what it's presenting now is a chance to buy it lower once it breaks the September 2016 low. Just the key is, if it does break the trend line, it's not a huge deal. The big deal is to hold this low by any margin. What I would say about this, though, is that since we have some divergence here on the daily, bullish divergence, there's probably a good chance to see another swing up as well, and then perhaps the move down to break. So like with Euro New Zealand and like with Euro Australian dollar, I'm looking for this to move a bit higher as well. It should, on the 1 hour or 4 hour rather, it should present some type of buy sequence here. So if we see that into the lower 104s, that may be a good opportunity. I will watch out for that next week. Okay, Euro Pound, a pair that is used to give me a big headache, trying to deal with a 3 or a 5 in here. It looks like we may have a trade on this now. Okay, so assuming, as it seems to be, I think, judging by the massive width of this and the way it's stalling out, and is still kind of a trend line resistance here. It has not convincingly broken back through. I'm going to view this as the completed 5. And this, essentially, to me, we have a move down for A, a 3-wave correction for B, and now another move down for C. So I feel that so long as Thursday's high holds, Wednesday's high holds, I'm going to look at this bearishly. Looking at the lower time frames, I can get 5 waves out of this here. So let's see if that works out for a bearish swing here. Going into Monday, see if there's a sell opportunity here. This is now back on the radar as a sell opportunity come Monday. I feel that there's an impulse down here on Wednesday, and we're having a correction here. I've been marking it as this, but even if it does correct up further, so long as this local high holds, I will be looking for another move down in this. So I think this is opening up as a selling opportunity in euro pounds coming this week. The whole larger move in this whole sideways kind of choppy, for me, awkward to deal with move, it does not look convincing right now. It does not look convincing for another high above 0.93 for larger wave 5. The whole talk I had about proportions before seems to still be an issue, and this is so massive now. I think it works better as larger A into here, 3 waves for B into here. I can count this as 5 waves up. And so long as Wednesday's high holds, see if there's a sell opportunity. It's looking weak, and the weekly is weak. And the monthly is closing within 2 previous wicks here. So it is showing some sign of weakness. And if we can get the down move here, the stocks will roll over. We'll get a bigger 3-wave correction for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then the euro trend may resume after that. So this is to watch for on Monday and next week. Okay, Canadian pairs. I put a count on this. This is probably my preferred count now. Finding a low into this support region for wave 3 ending, and then a wave 4 and one more low for then a slightly bigger correction to follow. It's been a strong sell. I'm still holding this as a triangle. In this case, it seems to only be a last move of this current swing. So I'd still look for a corrective move up from here, and then another selling opportunity. So the rules haven't changed, rather the guidelines haven't changed. 3-wave corrections are selling opportunities in US Canadian. It's still running the bearish weekly divergence, which has been really strong in this pair. And though the trend has been very strong, I feel still that it's due a corrective move, and then if that's wave 4 as labeled here, one more low, and then maybe the bigger correction, some kind of bigger correction. But in any case, it's killed off this divergence here. This takes a while to work out. But for now, there's no clue really that this is a major low for wave 3. So any corrective bounce remains a sell in this. All it's looking like is it's broken the local trend line, and it's trying to correct up for a move. Okay, Euro Canadian is looking very weak. This is looking like odds are on for another move down now. What I want to say about this is, like with Euro New Zealand, there is a gap from the April French presidential election. So that needs to be filled, and I can judge it further from there. On the 4-hour time frame, I'm counting this as a 5-wave impulse. I don't have it marked, but I've been over it before as 5 waves. We've had a 3-wave correction, and looking at the weekly so far, it's possible that's enough. I don't know if it's going to find a low here and have one more move up before heading down, or if it's going to turn over here. It's not clear. No one really knows at this stage. I would say the odds, what I would say is that the odds are highly likely that it's going to move down. It's got to fill the price gap at a minimum, I would say, just like Euro New Zealand did. And from then we can look at it if it's a 3-wave correction, or if it's going now into the 3rd wave, and then we have a 4 and a 5 to follow. But I would say the odds here are very likely it's going to break. You can trend line it, of course. That's simple enough. And then see if it finds that low pardon me, see if it breaks that. So far, this move doesn't look so impulsive to the downside. It's looking more like it's going to have another leg up. But what does look likely is whether it does that or it doesn't do that, it's going to make another move down ultimately. I would say to the one, at a minimum, I would say on a gap fill to the 14470 level, possibly 14480 there. But this gap should be filled. So I'm looking for a sell here on Monday, otherwise Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then a move down for about 400 points, 3 to 400 points to that level here, to the box. And then we can see if this develops into a 5-wave move overall, then we have an even larger sell on our case. But right now, what I would prefer to see happen is one more move up. The key is to hold this level because that is the start of a 5-wave decline. So the limitation is there, and local price action should give us a hint if it's going to turn over here. But for now, it seems to just be holding on. Just a weekly is very ugly. So a good selling opportunity there next week. Aussie Canadian, no further development on this. I've been over this. I don't want to repeat it too much. It's at trend support. There's no selling at trend support. You have to deal either with a breakthrough and then a slight correction, or see if there's a buy signal here for a move up. I'm going to maintain a bearish view on this. That we have the B wave high into this level now. I'm forced to count this as a leading move, and from that a 3-wave correction into here. And here I have a series of kind of awkward corrections with impulse, correction, impulse, and I'm looking still for a move back up to here for a correction and then the down move. So when we come into trend support here, I am looking for it to be bought into. And then see if we get a correction back up to here and then a sell. But in any case, I want to hold this along with the other Canadian pairs as overall being bearish. It's certainly bearish on a larger time frame. For example, on the weekly, I was looking possibly for a wedge up here, but if it's going to turn over here, that's fine. Just need to see it break support and to power through. Ultimately, this entire thing is corrective, so I'm looking for a C wave down here beneath the A wave low. Okay, New Zealand Canadian, very bearish monthly close here. This worked well from 9,700, and it is holding beneath trend, the broken trend line. However, it has not been convincingly doing it yet. We need to see it hold here and ultimately correct and break lower. But it's holding, it's staying bearish. So the only issue I have with this, what I'm trying to enunciate, is that it has not convincingly broken the trend line yet. And also with this daily kind of inverted hammer here, it's still possible to move up a bit higher overall before another selling opportunity comes in. You know, when you have a case like this, when it hardly stops at the trend line and then it just quickly breaks through, you need a bit more convincing price action on the lower time frame to make sure it works out. So in any case, this again is another bearish pair. The Canadian dollar is strong. A lot of strength is returning to the Canadian dollar. I suppose the extreme COT short positions are reversing. And along with the bank governor comments and the upcoming Bank of Canada rates decision, I think 2 weeks from now, it's looking like these pairs are going to be turning over further. Okay, US dollar, Japanese yen. The bigger count has worked. From the wedge, it's worked out really well. It's under resistance now. However, my gut feeling is that this will break up through here. I have to give all the benefit to the bulls here because there is a more aggressive count on this. And so far it's turned around really well. It's still holding up. So I'm going to give the bulls the advantage on this in the sense of a further move up. If it breaks out, small correction as usual, and then another move up. The count overall is pretty clear. Okay, actually, I made a long video about how I'm looking ultimately for a bullish move in the US dollar yen above 118. And I think I made a claim even above 126. But the key point here is that this segment has been corrective in 3 long waves. I can speculate that we're seeing some kind of 3-wave move here for another move down, but that's just speculation. It's guesswork now. And for the time being, from the wedge, it's looking bullish. There's a bullish count on this. So if we see something like a kind of leading diagonal, then a correction for wave 2 of wave 3, and then the big move up, that is possible as well. So I'm looking at this bullishly still. I think this trend line will probably be broken and turn into support afterwards. But there's not much to say about this euro yen. This worked out from the wedge here. This has been on, and so far has been running very, 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 very well. So I have to take this here as a kind of leading move. But the key was the wedge break here. The overall count, I went over this, I think 2 weeks ago. Maybe it was last weekend, I can't remember. Yeah, it was on the 15th, so 2 weeks ago I went over this 5-wave impulse, 3-wave correction, and from there it's exploded. So this has been going well. Probably a few more gyrations up, then something more like a correction to follow. But right now there is no stopping this. So I'm holding the same view with the US dollar yen. It's lagging, but I still feel for now it's going to continue to put a strong move in. So both those pairs remain bullish. Okay, not much more to say about gold. It's still managing to hold. Still managing to hold a level here. I don't have a count on this really. I'm trying to maintain a bullish view on this. It's just holding on, but it is looking kind of weak. It's going to have to turn up soon. It definitely has a possibility of doing that. However, keeping in mind that I'm looking at a bullish US dollar yen, I think I went over this before. All right, opposites attract, kind of. And in this case, if we've got a bullish yen, US dollar yen, we have a bearish cable. Sorry, not cable, gold. This correlation has been pretty tight overall. You can see gold goes up, US dollar yen down, US dollar yen up, gold down, and so on, 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 and so on. So if the US dollar yen move continues, we're looking at this turning over once again. It is still under trend support, trend resistance. There's not much I can add on this. It's kind of grasping on tenuously, but it's still in there with the chance. Okay, let me just see what else I can cover. If there's anything else I have any clarity on, just a moment. Bitcoin, I haven't been dealing with this for a while. It might be triangulating here. If you're bullish on Bitcoin, A, B, C, D, E, maybe. But if that is a triangle, well, okay. Usually with triangles, they end up being the ultimate, the penultimate. It's the penultimate signal. There's an ultimate move which follows. Obviously, in US Canadian, that was a triangle for maybe 4 of wave 3, and this, that's the thing, it's a triangle for 1 for that particular degree. In any case, I don't really have a view on Bitcoin. The move from 900 to 2500 worked fine, and since then I've dropped the count, and obviously the count is wrong, but it was a good lesson in that if you latch on to a corrective move in a bullish sequence, you can still make money out of it even if your count is wrong. The count is a guide, the trend line is a guide, the candles are guides. These are not rules to marry or to fight for your life over. Okay, wheat has broken out. I was working this and working this count, and I had the wrong count on it. It's now broken out. So that suggests that all of these agricultural fertilizer companies are going to find the low. That's what I've been looking for in any case. It's looking like now that, okay, let me rephrase that. If you do an overlay chart of wheat on the fertilizer companies or the fertilizer companies on the wheat chart, you'll see that they're tracking. The companies track the underlying commodity price of wheat. And so now that wheat has found a low and is making a strong move up, it suggests that all of these fertilizer companies are going to find their lows sometime soon and make the moves up. So a breakout on wheat, a low in some fertilizer companies, judging by past tracking performance and correlation, they should be moving up now or soon. What else? Sugar hasn't done anything. Soybeans are breaking out. I feel like a numpty saying that actually, but in any case, 5-wave sequence in here. On the daily, I'll show you the 5-wave count I made some months ago, I think. That's my view for 5 waves on soybeans. What is key here is that this sequence has been corrective in 3 waves. So the candle is strong this week. The monthly is not piercing or engulfing, but who cares? It can still move up. So if this has found a low in, a little bit higher, then a correction from that as well. So it's possible soybeans have a low in. And maybe you don't want to trade soybeans, but if you're dealing with companies that deal with soybeans and that kind of thing, just like companies, fertilizer companies that deal with wheat, or not deal with wheat, but are related to its price movement, then the soybean information is useful. So it seems like we have a low into this week, and we need a bit of confirming price action and then a move above possibly 1208. 3, you can always do something like that. However, take it as it looks, and it's looking bullish here. Bonds are looking weak. Wheat. Bonds are looking weak. Very weak. Bonds are looking weak. Okay, I will leave it there. ZB looking weak. I tell you what, things are not looking good for the US. Currency's plummeting. Stocks are hanging in there, but you know that's not a significant marker of many things in any case. So bonds are looking weak here. Dollar's looking weak. Okay, I think that's it. I will leave it there. And if you have any questions, let me know. If you want me to look at anything I haven't covered, let me know. Oh yeah, one other thing, US oil. I don't have a open oil chart. Um, pardon me, a more accurate oil chart in front of me. I've just got the US oil, so forgive any kind of inaccuracies. But what I wanted to say about this, it is possible we have a bullish swing coming in oil. Corrective. Corrective. So, big week up this week, big candle up. Stocks are at 20, bottoming level. It's possible we come up here above 60, pardon me, at least above 54, maybe up to this level of 60 here for a larger three-wave move. So it turns into a larger three-wave move like that. The problem for oil bears, it's been declining a lot this year, but it's corrective. Down, up, chop, up, slice, chop, up, down. You know, it's kind of corrective. So if this low this week holds, I don't see why we couldn't have a move up here, especially with strong Canadian dollar as well, to see a larger three-wave correction overall to 62 possibly. So I think that's looking quite good now. If this makes a correction, if this advance slows down and it makes a corrective move in threes, it may be a good buy opportunity in the 40s once it slows down. I'll judge it as it comes. The reason I mention it is partly because this is looking corrective and partly because I'm bullish on the Canadian dollar. So those two together make me think that oil has another leg up towards above 55, towards 65, maybe. Okay, that's the first time I've covered oil, actually. I'll try to find a better chart than US oil. I mean, that's the lazy one to look at, but in any case, it's there. All right. Good luck to everyone next week. Bye-bye.